Being able to farm the higher levels of the clan boss, especially on Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare, is really going to be taking your account to the next level in terms of efficiency, being able to farm shards, and just a lot of resources in general, right? But sometimes getting into being able to get to those levels in the clan boss, especially as a new player with a new account, is not going to be actually easy, right? So today we're going to be talking about a few champions that are going to be making your life a lot easier getting to that point. We're going to be fitting into certain archetypes of teams, and if you are actually in possession of any of those, you will be very happy, right? Now, of course, we're looking here at just getting the most shards out of it, which is the main reward, besides, of course, getting those scrolls, which barely ever dropped. And therefore, yeah, let's just get into it. We'll look at a little champion now. Before we go any further, please go ahead and check out Aptoide if you haven't done so yet. It's going to be allowing you to earn massive bonuses whenever doing any kind of purchase. You're going to be able to get bonuses when buying these things when you play Raid Shadow Legends through Aptoide. And as you can see, I will be getting a little bit of a bonus once I buy these based off of the amount of money that I'm spending. Now, once I do have enough of the bonus, I can go ahead and use it instead of my actual money to buy the things. We'll talk more about this at the end of the video. So, a couple champions that are going to be very damn strong and basically useful for getting into doing the clan boss, right? First of all, let's just go ahead and start it with our good old Skull Crusher, which I also happen to have. Now, this guy is a beast, and he's of course an epic. He's not going to be too hard to get, but we are of course going to be at the mercy of our RNG, since he's not going to be dropping from anywhere guaranteed. But why is he very good, right? First of all, let's just go ahead and check out his kit, right? He does have a heal reduction, which is going to be a little bit whatever. First of all, his A1, his usefulness is really just going to be coming from his A2, where he is going to first of all be placing an ally protection on all allies except himself, and then that ally protection of course is going to be taking away some of the damage from everybody else in your team, making it so that it's basically working a bit of like a decrease or rather an increased defense, because well, that damage is being taken by somebody who's going to be a little bit beefier. This is a defense champion, as you can see right there. But on top of that, the real deal here is going to be about that counter attack buff on all allies. Now, counter attack basically means that whenever your allies get hit on any, or basically anybody with the counter attack buff on them gets hit, this person or this character is going to be actually attacking whoever attacked them first in the first place, right? Basically, you're going to be multiplying the amount of damage your champions are going to be doing every turn that they get attacked with this buff on. It's going to be meaning that they are just going to be doing more damage in general. Therefore, this buff on its own, just taking your damage basically to the next level. And it's also going to be playing very well into another sort of archetype of build, which we will mention later, which is the unkillable sort of archetypes of the clan boss, which are kind of like cheesy compositions where you require very specific champions with very specific timings, but it's really all just going to be relying on just your team being unkillable, or rather that's a specific champion in your team being unkillable, right? So the unkillable buff is just straight up going to be doing what it sounds like. You are just going to not be able to die when you have this buff during the turn that the buff is active. Once the buff runs out, well, that is gone. Now, finally, the last thing that this guy has on his kit is just decreasing the duration of all debuffs on this champion by 1, which for the sake of the clan boss really not going to be too relevant, and the aura basically after that is just like not even going to be applying to the clan boss. So really here it's just going to be about what we already mentioned, that counter attack and that unkillable buff. If you want to join my team in Raid Shadow Legends, click the link in the description to get a free Narma as well as Anax, Uugo, and Mausoleum Mage as you progress through the game. Here's what you need to do. First of all, log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Then click the link in the description and register a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial, and then go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get a fresh start in Raid with a free Narma and 3 epic champs. Click on my link right now. Next up, I want to mention another epic who is going to be Bergis, who basically also works very well together with a counter-attack champion. Now, the reason for that is because his A1, his basic ability with no cooldown, is going to be having a chance of applying a buff that's going to be reflecting damage, applying it on a random ally for 2 turns, right? So the more of these attacks you actually get out, the more of those reflect damage buffs you can get out. Now, reflect damage is just straight up going to be doing what it says, right? Whenever you get hit by the clan boss in this case, that much damage is going to be done onto the enemy. Straight up, simply, easily, and passively increasing that damage done. Now, he's also going to be applying a very nasty increased speed buff on a target ally only for 3 turns, together with other buffs on top of that, which is going to be ally protection, increased defense. Like, he's going to be doing a lot of good stuff for your team, And then he's also going to be applying another reflect damage on top of things, right? So he is quite a stacked, beefed up champion who you would very much want against the clan boss when you are putting him together with somebody who, for example, just allows you to get more of those A1s. Next up, we'll mention one of the most accessible debuff blockers that there is in the game, and it's going to be coming extremely handy for the Demon Lord, and that is going to be Sepulchre Sentinel, right? Looking at the reviews, you can see Demon Lord all the way up there. And she's going to be fulfilling the role of basically blocking that stun that the Demon Lord is going to be doing onto one of your allies every now and then, right? I think it's like every other turn. Blocking that stun is going to mean that you are just able to output more damage or do more whatever with that one character. Usually, this one character that gets stunned is going to be the lowest defense character, or rather, that is the way that the game works. So usually that's going to be happening onto your attackers, and you really want to avoiding your attackers losing turns, right? So this buff on itself is going to be allowing you to do that very, very easily. Now, of course, it's going to be on a 4-turn cooldown, and the buff is going to be on all allies for 2 turns, right? So you cannot really guarantee this is always going to be happening and always going to be up. It's also going to be coming with an increased defense buff, which is in quite a big one, 60% increased defense. She also comes with a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Of course, not guaranteed, but that's on her A1, so it's going to be happening very often, and you can increase the chance by booking it up and stuff, right? You're kind of supposed to do that. So that decreased attack debuff is extremely important to have onto the Demon Lord, so you can go further and further onto those turn, the turn meter in general of the Demon Lord. And then she also comes with a chance of completely blocking the incoming damage when an ally is attacked, right? The chance is going to be up for a little bit. It's going to be, I don't know, what is it, like 45%, something like that, right? If I did the math properly, I think it's actually 50%. I cannot count. So anyways, yes, completely blocking the damage one of your allies is going to be taking. That is definitely very handy. She is one of the better champions you can get into your team straight up, just like a big defensive setup there, just to really get rid of that stun, which is going to be taking your damage once again even further down the line. Now, based off of the fact that her A2, which is the block debuffs, is going to be on a very high cooldown, this is the kind of champion that you are going to be wanting to speed tune, so that the block debuffs buff is always going to be live, or rather active, on your champions whenever the stun comes around. Now, the way you do that is by basically just getting the speed all the way up to between 205 and 210. I think that's the sweet spot, and at that point she's going to be quick enough so that she always gets the buff back again live on all your champions before the actual stun happens again. This is kind of what it's called the 4-to-3 ratio in Clan Boss. Basically, the champion is going to be speed tuned to the point where she's going to be having 4 turns for every 3 turns that the Clan Boss takes. Now, suppose this first mention that Clan Boss on Nightmare has a speed of 170, while the Clan Boss on Ultra Nightmare has a speed of 190. So any amount of speeds that I talked about during these segments is probably worth noting that is going to be depending on the difficulty you're actually tackling, and therefore would need to be shifted or tuned depending on that fact. It's also worth talking about High Katoon, which is basically a free champion. Anybody is going to be getting it throughout the first month of playing the game, and it's very much worth getting all the way maxed out because, well, she's one of those champions that's basically going to be fitting on any kind of content for the most part, and as a free champion, you're guaranteed to at least be able to put it in your team very, very easily. Now, the reason and the real value of this champion is just going to be to hit your speed tunings, because she's going to be allowing you to increase that speed quite easily with a low cooldown on her A2, as well as filling their turn meter, right? Allowing you to hit those speed tunings and requirements for certain kind of teams to be working properly in the Clan Boss, and straight up just getting more turns into the mix so you can get more damage done, and then that's really just about it. Her big value here is going to be to just get that turn meter filled as well as increasing that speed, so very worth mentioning. She's a very, very good champion for the Clan Boss. Now let's get now into the more serious champs, the champs that are really going to be the backbone of very, very good teams for the Clan Boss. Now, first of all, talking about the Mytha over here. Now, she is a Void Epic champion, which is going to be a little bit harder to pull off, but if you do so, you're going to be in a massively good spot for being able to assemble one of the better teams there is for the Clan Boss. Now, she's the kind of champion that works on a team that is basically going to be unkillable. That is really because she's going to be bringing a block damage buff, which kind of works just like an unkillable buff, although the block damage will make the damage not happen, as the name kind of indicates, but usually she will be paired together with another champion that's able to bring a similar kind of buff, right? Because you really want to be rotating between this buff that, for example, we have here on the Mytha and somebody else's that we are able to then just keep on feeding off of, right? So the real idea of this whole thing is just to speed tune your team so that the turns flow in a manner that then you are just able to always have a block damage, or rather just an unkillable debuff, or rather buff on your allies or just your champions active at any given time, so that you basically are unkillable. You're never able to be taken down by the clan boss, right? Now the real way you do this is again by speed tuning, and she's going to be one of the better ones there is in the game because, well, she got that block damage on one turn, as well as she's able to increase the duration of all ally buffs by one turn, right? So she really basically just plays perfectly into that kind of build archetype, which is what basically makes the clan boss so easily cheesable if you got the right team setup. Now at this point, it's very worth mentioning that no matter if you got an unkillable team, which will by no means be able to be killed by the Demon Lord simply because you set it up in a way that there's always going to be a buff that prevents you from dying. At the point you get to 50 rounds of the Demon Lord, right? The Demon Lord takes 50 turns. No matter that you got all those buffs, like the Demon Lord is gonna straight up just be ignoring any block damage or unkillable buffs you got on your allies. So once you get to that point, it's game over, right? You are done, you're dead. And by that point, basically, you just need to be able to do enough damage so that you actually complete the requirements to get the rewards in the level of the Demon Lord you are doing. So once you do set up one of these kind of teams where you're going to be basically able to just straight up not die, it's just a matter of scaling up the damage to the point where you just are able to actually meet those requirements. So as we were mentioning, the cap of 50 turns onto the clan boss, that's why we sort of mentioned before all those counterattacks and reflect damage sort of buffs, which are going to be a very, very cheap and easy way of actually getting more damage into the whole mix while you still got a team that's really able to support that unkillable setup, right? And in that same subject, we got Man-Eater, who is also going to be bringing basically that kind of buff, which is going to be allowing you to set your whole thing so that you are never able to die, right? In this case, we got the unkillable buff on his A3 on a very high cooldown, but it's going to be able to go down to 5-turn cooldown, and he's straight up just really valuable because of that. That's what you want him in. You're going to be allowing you to just cycle through your cooldowns as you speed tune your whole team properly, so that you're always going to be able to get that unkillable buff, right? It's going to be on for 2 turns, right? So we're not gonna be getting into the specifics of how you actually assemble the team. That would take a whole separate kind of video to actually talk about, and we might do that in the future once we are able to put together that kind of team. We're just straight up mentioning the kind of champions that would you really want for the clan boss. Now, worth noting that 2 of the same champion will also work in this sort of setup, so like 2 Demethes or 2 Man-Eaters, you would be very much happy to have back to back. Now, also on the subject of debuff cleansing, we already talked about Sepulchre Sentinel here on the Knights Revenant faction, but we also have very good old Doom Priest, who's going to be able to cleanse 1 random debuff from their allies whenever she takes a turn, right? So what you want to be doing with her is to make her just about slow enough so that whenever the clan boss attacks, she's actually going to be taking her turn first, right after the clan boss takes the attack, and therefore whoever gets stunned by this smash is going to be cleansed out of that stun, right? So they are going to be able to take their turn instead of actually losing it. Now, when I talk about speed tuning and the speed requirements for this sort of setup, it's all after auras and other buffs that are going to be applied to the Doom Priest, right? So whatever her base speed is at the point of getting into the battle, you also be needing to take into account what her speed will really be live in the combat, right? That is what you actually kind of need to simulate, and that's why it's kind of hard to actually come up with these sort of teams. So it's really very much better to just actually like look at guides and whatever. I'll get into more specific whenever we actually are able to assemble one of those teams like we already talked about. Now, she also brings an increased crit rate buff on a random ally for 2 turns, which is very damn strong, as well as an increased attack buff on all allies. So she's very much a very offensive sort of champion who's gonna also be coming with that cleanse, which is very valuable. Now, moving on to one of the better rare champions there is out there in the game, Painkeeper Aptoide rare is gonna be coming with a very good A3 that's gonna be decreasing the cooldown on all ally skills by 1 turn. You want to be fully booking this up so it goes down to 4 turns, and you're gonna be really needing this skill so you can get those team setups with the unkillable and block damage buffs running. If you actually get her, you're gonna be so damn happy. She's just so damn strong and powerful. As you can see, the ratings fully back that up. She is kind of like a necessary key piece for this kind of teams that actually are unkillable. There is an extremely cheesy kind of legendary from the Sacred Order, that's Wixwell, who is going to be just able to fully carry an entire Demon Lord setup together with two very easily accessible rares in the game, which are Valerie and Hellborn Sprite. You basically just put this guy together with those two rares, and he's going to be able to allow you to build an unkillable setup of a team without actually having unkillable and block damage buffs, simply because he's going to be able to apply massive shields as well as increase defense buff on all allies, and then be able to increase the duration of those things by also spamming a decreased attack onto the enemy, eventually just increasing the shields on all allies based off of the total number of buffs that had the duration increased, right? Like, you're going to be able to spiral this out of control. Is going to kind of like multiplicatively work their way into an unkillable setup who's able to go all the mile, like all the way down to the 50 turn mark without again actually having those unkillable buffs on the team or the block damage buffs. So if you actually happen to have Wixwell, which was part of a fusion event and a lot of people did have it back in the day, it's obviously a little bit harder to get it now in the day, you're going to be very damn happy. On the subject of maximizing damage and just turn meter in general, Seeker is going to be one of the better rare champions, or rather epic champions there is out there. It's going to be able to get a lot of that sweet field turn meter on all allies, as well as increased attack buff on all allies for a long time, right? Also getting an extra turn, so he can like back to back use this. Is going to be on a very low cooldown, 3-turn cooldown, as well as of course getting that extra turn. So yes, if you actually manage to get a Seeker, you're going to be very damn happy. Look at the reviews, he's all the way up there. On a very similar note, we also have a Deacon Armstrong, who's going to be able to allow you to get a bit of a leech debuff as well as a decreased defense. And finally, the most important thing is going to be coming with a field turn meter, very much like Seeker. And then if you put together this, like for example something like a Haikatoon, you're going to be able to build a very fast kind of team that's going to be able to just build off of an unkillable team with something like a Demitha without anybody else. But you're going to be requiring some sort of very expensive gear to actually make the whole thing work, right? Like the setup with only one of the unkillable sort of buffs characters in your team, and everybody else is like speeding them up. It's gonna be quite difficult to set up, but he is one of the better champions you can have in there to actually just speed your full team up and get a lot of damage going. And if you're looking for a very good damage dealer on a budget, you're gonna be very happy to get the rare champion Harris from the High Elf faction. She is one of the better there is out there, just a very quick, very easily accessible kind of champion who is just straight up going to be able to decimate that team. Also coming with a counter attack whenever the ally or an ally is attacked. So she's going to be getting in there, doing a whole lot of damage, just a lot of attacks really quick. She also comes with an ally speed increase, as well as removing random debuff from your allies, right? So yes, she is a very good option if you're looking to get just a little bit of extra damage there. You're lacking some damage dealers, she is your go-to. That is not to say that getting the damage dealers in this game is usually the easier part. Getting every other piece to make the thing work is kind of what actually gets a little bit harder. Now, I cannot end this video without actually pointing out the resource Deadwood Jedi. This website basically is going to be telling you all you need to know about the right teams for the clan boss, so we can get setups like what we're talking about, the unkillable sort of setup, counter attack setups, stuff like that. That's going to be allowing you to go all the extra mile to 50 turns. And right here, for example, we have the double Demitha setup with the right speed tuning, right? So these are the values of the speed you need on her to actually get the whole thing going, so it's actually going to be working. You also have videos and showcases. You also got a bit of an assessment here where you can like do the 2 keys to actually fully complete Ultra Nightmare based off of the kind of champions you're going to be having here. Also the kind of team it is, it's like an unkillable team, very easy to assemble, right? So all you need here, for example, will be 2 Demithas and then whatever cleanser of the ones we just talked about, any DPS, so like for example the one we talked about as well, just Harris, and then a block debuffs, and that is it. You got your team running, right? And then it's also all about getting that speed tuning right, getting enough damage so you are able to actually satisfy the requirements of getting the rewards of the clan boss at the level you're doing it. And yes, if you are going to be looking through this, you're going to be finding a lot of resources, right? So really recommend getting into this. We will do some videos on these very specific setups once we are able to put them together, so I'll showcase them to you. For now, if you just want to be curious and look into it and try to set yourself up to actually get any of this build running, run over to deadwoodjedi.com and check it out. Alright everybody, so that's about it. Before you go, please go ahead and check out Aptoide if you haven't done so yet. Aptoide is going to be allowing you to get massive bonuses that can go from 10% of your money you're spending all the way up to extra 35% of that much money. And then once you do have enough of the bonuses, you're going to be able to go ahead and spend the actual bonuses instead of your actual money to buy the thing for you, right? So there's going to be a guide down below in the description so you can set it up on your Android devices, like for example BlueStacks on your PC, like an emulator, or your Android phone. And then there's going to be a code as well, which is going to be allowing you to get that bonus increased by a flat 5% for the get-go, so you can start earning even more bonuses, right? The whole deal is just to download, raid Shadow Legends through Aptoide and just keep playing like normal, login, and that's pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, see ya.